The supposed boogeyman of the heavyweight division just got exposed by Joseph Parker. The Kiwi went out there taking a big risk against a dangerous big puncher in Martin Bakole, but handled it with ease. So this is how Martin Bakole just got exposed. So as you may know, Martin Bakole took a gamble here coming up against Joseph Parker on short notice, who was in a full camp getting ready to fight champion Daniel Dubois, who is also another big heavy hitter. And this was a make or break for Martin Bakole. Either he can catapult his name to a new level, beating a established name in Joseph Parker, a guy who's been around and has kind of had a resurgence in his career lately, beating big punchers like Zhilei Zhang and Deontay Wilder, or he could kind of get fraud checked, and that's kind of what happened, as a lot of people did see Martin Bakole as the boogeyman, the guy that was going to beat Usyk, was going to beat all the top heavyweights. Stories of him sparring Usyk and Daniel Dubois and knocking them out in sparring were coming out, and he had a lot of hype behind him. Now, this isn't the end for Martin Bakole, but definitely takes him back into the pecking order and establishes him as just another contender for right now.
Yeah, most definitely. And coming off of that big Jared Anderson win, in which Jared Anderson was a huge prospect who hadn't taken a loss yet, many were expecting him to jump in the heavyweight division, and Martin Bakole put on a super dominant performance, gaining a lot of traction and hype. For him, like you were saying, to be the boogeyman of the heavyweight division, for him to be next up, to be contending for all these belts. So for him to get a short notice fight against Joseph Parker was a very big opportunity for him. And this was definitely one for fans to see if he really got what it takes to be at the elite high level of the heavyweight boxing division. And definitely big risks for both of these guys to come in there on short notice. Of course, Parker had a full fight camp and was preparing already for a dangerous guy in Daniel Dubois, who is champion and just beat AJ. But still, definitely a lot of risk to fight Bakole on such a short notice. And of course for Bakole too, with no training camp really, and just coming in on 3 connecting flights, being jet lagged, not really getting used to the Saudi environment and getting to sleep, just going straight into this fight, and it kind of showed as well. And right off the bat in this fight, we just saw Joseph Parker just stabbing to the body quite a lot for Bakole, was going into it, try to stay a bit light-footed. As we know, Bakole's game is he's very flat-footed, just kind of eats up a lot of the ring, takes up a big area in there, and just likes to weigh on his opponents, likes to put pressure on his opponents, walks them down, kind of with his hands down as well, with his powerful punches, and just starts wearing down on them. But Parker definitely not scared. Like you mentioned, he's fought a lot of powerful punchers already in his past, and he was fully ready for Bakole here.
Yeah, Parker was setting everything up from the beginning with his jab. So was Bakole, and Bakole showed some good waist movement, ducking down, avoiding punches, but he really just wasn't ready for this level of opposition, and Joseph Parker made that clear, putting on an emphatic statement, as in that second round he really started to just throw out that right hand, the overhands, the straight rights through the guard of Martin Bakole, and they were kind of connecting a little bit. Bakole was kind of having trouble finding his timing, and he also came in a lot heavier in this fight than even in his last fight against Jared Anderson, at 310 pounds weighing in, compared to against Anderson being around 285 pounds. So obviously not in full camp, not conditioned really for this fight, and Parker was having his way in most of the exchanges, landing the right hands, and eventually he's able to land a short overhand on the temple of Martin Bakole, and Martin Bakole never really established his stance. Like you said, he is very awkward, and he does kind of have a squared stance, so he kind of just walks forward instead of being in an orthodox or southpaw stance. He just kind of in a squared stance in front of you, and that can leave him susceptible to big power shots like a overhand that Joseph Parker lands with 1 minute left in the second round. It kind of clips Bakole on the temple, which those kind of shots, even though in real time it may not look too impactful, those can put you out, and that can really mess up your equilibrium, which it did. Martin Bakole started to go on wobbly legs and eventually go down. He does get up from the count, but he is facing his back, and then his trainer Billy Nelson does end up pulling his gloves. I'm not sure if the corner really stopped it or the ref did, but either way the fight was stopped, and that was really it for Martin Bakole.
Yeah, and I guess if you want to talk about the short training camp, at least cardio wise, you can't really say that made a difference, because Parker ended up finishing him so early into the fight, already in the second round. But maybe if you want to argue that the sharpness of Bakole wasn't really there, obviously because the additional weight he had on him and not being in full training camp, as of course that's different than just normal training and you're not preparing for an actual fight. So you could make the argument that of course Bakole was not at 100%, but for it to be ended that quickly is quite crazy, and a huge win for Parker. And Parker really has not done that to any of the top elite guys at the division in that manner, just stopping them with one punch pretty much over the top of the head and finishing them that early in the second round. And for Bakole, he was getting hit quite a lot, and before, when he was getting hit to the head, he was kind of shrugging it off, pretending like Parker's punches weren't really affecting him at all. And right after that, Parker lands a massive shot to Bakole after Bakole whiffed and just gets sent to the ground. And that's all she wrote from there. A massive win for Joseph Parker and a real setback for Martin Bakole as his hype train gets derailed massively. And as well, he just lost for a very possible big fight opportunities in a title eliminator practically. So he definitely won't be fighting the Alexander Usyks of the world, in which Parker now has that opportunity. And in the post-fight interview, Parker pretty much just said what's next for him is to fight for belts, and that's just what he wants. Regardless of whether it's against Dubois or Usyk, he's ready for the opportunities. And it's massive for Parker here in this stage of his career, and he can really show that he's at the top of this division. And he just did that by putting away a very dangerous guy in Martin Bakole, regardless of the quick fight outcome.
Yeah, what a statement for the heavyweight division from Joseph Parker. Obviously supposed to fight Daniel Dubois, and it's kind of unfortunate we didn't get that fight now in hindsight, because that would have been much more competitive. We know that. He wouldn't have gone down in 2 rounds like Martin Bakole, but regardless, it's going to be interesting to see what they do next for both guys. Joseph Parker definitely puts himself in that title conversation with either Daniel Dubois, bring him back to that, reschedule that, or maybe jump the line, jump Dubois and fight Usyk, the current pretty much lineal undisputed champion, and challenge for Usyk's titles. And I'm not sure if that is going to be next, because Usyk did say he wants to fight Dubois still, regardless of pulling out of this fight. So I don't know, Dubois maybe just getting rewarded for not fighting Parker. I felt like this was a really dangerous fight even leading up to this fight for Daniel Dubois, but now he doesn't have to fight Parker. It was a big risk anyways. He didn't really need to take the Parker fight, and now for Parker, either he just takes a stay busy fight maybe, or they reschedule that fight with Dubois. I'd like to see that. And for Martin Bakole, definitely a setback in his career following all the hype, but he is still relatively young, only 31 years old, so he could still build back and make it to the higher echelon of the heavyweight division. Like we said, this is only a short notice fight, so he could prove that. Maybe on short notice, things could have gone a little bit differently. Now, I would like to see that Efe Ajagba fight rebooked. I guess it never really got called off because he just kind of just took this fight on 2 days' notice, but that would be still a decent fight for him and maybe some of the lower guys in the heavyweight division.
And for fans, it's definitely going to change the perspective of Martin Bakole in general. I mean, a lot of people will still say that it was just a short notice fight. Of course, 2 days is crazy insane for short notice to travel all the way to Saudi. Definitely a lot of things you could say for Martin Bakole to kind of ease this loss. But you could say more of it is just how quick it ended too, and you can even kind of make the argument that he sort of just quit there. Because when he got dropped initially, it kind of just seemed like he was out of it and didn't fully want to get back into that fight. Because he did turn his back to the corner, and then the corner just practically stopped it by pulling off the gloves. And also you could see by his body language, he was just not really into it anymore. But on the plus side for him, he definitely did get a big bag for getting in there and saving the card, saving the co-main event on such short notice. So I'm sure he was definitely compensated good by Saudi.
But let us know what you guys think in the comments down below on Martin Bakole kind of getting exposed here by Joseph Parker in their fight on the Last Crescendo card, and what you guys think may be next for both guys. But if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the video on screen for more punch talk.